So, I have a question. Maybe somebody out there can explain to me why, when it's, what do we got here? All right, it's 53 degrees, right? It's not even that cold. This guy pulled up in this nice ass Pete about, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours ago. He dicked around for a little while and then went into the truck stop. I'm at the Iowa 80. I assume, I didn't see a shower bag, so I'm assuming he's in there eating. But he left this truck idling. Now, I'm just baffled. I'm baffled. He's not even in it. Is there something I don't know about trucks to where when it's 53 degrees out, you need to leave it idling? I mean, it just blows my mind. I mean, I'm assuming, well, I don't know if the dude that's driving it owns that thing. He looked pretty young to me. I suppose it's possible. But just the fuel alone. I mean, why would you waste fuel like that? You're not even in the stinking thing. It's not cold enough to warrant freaking idling your truck nonstop. I'm just baffled. The other thing kind of bothers me is that is a nice ass truck, and I don't care what anybody says. Just idling them for hours on end, it's wear and tear on the motor. I don't care what anybody says. It's not good for them. So, just thought I'd throw it out there. Maybe it's a super trucker thing. I don't know. Maybe he thinks because he's driving a nice ass big old Pete that, I don't know. I just, it's blowing my mind. I don't understand why you would do that. I mean, mildly annoyed that every time I go to roll my window down to have a smoke, I got to listen to that thing idling for no damn reason. But I was just curious. I mean, I know if I owned a nice ass truck like that, number one, I wouldn't want the unnecessary freaking wear on the damn thing from just idling for no damn reason. And number two, I sure as hell wouldn't want to feed that beast. So I don't know. Maybe he's making $1 million a year. I don't know. Not the point of this video. This video, I have a story to tell. But first, everybody, well, I would assume almost everybody has heard that saying. I don't know if it's Greek or Latin or whatever it is, but know thyself. That's important, I think, for all aspects of life. So I have a story. This happened to me, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, long before I ever started doing videos and stuff. So, as any truck driver knows, people who don't drive trucks, if there are people that don't drive trucks that are watching this garbage, it's becoming more and more of a problem to where you pull into a truck stop to get fuel and the fuel island is blocked. There will be a lot of guys sitting in fuel islands doing things other than fueling their truck, right? I guess your average person probably wouldn't think it's that big of a deal, but it is a big deal, or rather can be a big deal. Normally I avoid those situations because I'm aware of the problem, and you know, I've been running long enough to know, and especially I run pretty, not all the time in the same area, but I know the truck stops. I know what they're like at any given hour of the day or night, and I generally avoid the busy ass freaking fuel islands. I mean, I don't ever let my fuel get so low that I absolutely have to stop at this truck stop to get fuel. Like, I do it all the time, where if I can see the fuel island before I'm committed to pulling in there and it's a mess, I'll just get right back on the friggin' interstate and go on down to the next one. Anyways, so the story is, my fuel island story is, I pulled into the Flying J in Bloomington, Illinois, exit 160. That place is, I don't like going in there. I've never been there where it's not kind of a mess. But I figured I don't remember the specifics. Like I said, it was 6-7 months ago when this happened to me. But I pulled in there about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning and figured, well, I got a 50-50 chance, right? I might be just early enough to beat the morning rush and it might be okay. Might not, but, you know, it wasn't in too much of a hurry, right? I don't like having my time waste, but, you know, I wasn't, as I recall, I wasn't going to run late on my delivery or anything, but so I pull, I come down the road and every fuel island has got a truck on it, and most of them have a truck pulled forward as well, right? So I'm like, fuck. I seen a truck sitting at one of the islands, had its lights on. So I figured, well, and it didn't have a truck in front of him either. So I figured, well, this is a good bet. This guy either just pulled in or hopefully he's about to pull out, right? So I pulled in behind him. Now, if you're familiar with that truck stop, it's right off the road. You pull right off the road, and if you actually get behind somebody that's in the fuel island, there's not much room for you to back up. There's a little bit, but you go any further and your ass end is going to be going on the road, and you can't really see all that well. In any case, it was busy, okay? I pulled in there, and within 5 minutes, there was a bunch of other trucks that had also pulled in next to me and around me, and there was actually a couple guys sitting on the street that were waiting for the fuel island to clear up before even pulling in here, okay? So I pulled in behind this dude. Now I'm stuck, okay? Every other fuel island is blocked anyway, and I can't back up far enough to just get out of there, to just go around everybody and just get out of there and go somewhere else. I'm committed, right? 10 minutes go by. I don't see a dude. Nobody's moving. I'm getting a little frustrated, right? 15 minutes go by. Now I'm like, what the fuck, right? So I get out of my truck, and as I'm walking up there, the truck is idling. Got his lights on, and it's idling. Nobody in the cab. I knocked on the sleeper. Pretty, loud, as you do when you think somebody's sleeping in a truck, to wake them up. Twice. Nothing. I go back to my truck, and now it's been 20 minutes, right? So I pulled up the pilot info on my phone and called the number and got the manager and told him what was going on. And he's like, all right, just give me a minute and I'll be out there. And I'm like, well, before you do, maybe Paige inside. I don't know, maybe the guy's taking a shower. And he's like, yeah, I've got one of the girls doing that right now. He's like, I told him what fuel island I was on, and I gave a description of the truck. It wasn't a company truck. The guy clearly owned that thing. It wasn't like it wasn't, all fancy and anything. It was a way older Pete. But anyways, as soon as I hung up the phone, this fucking humongous black dude, okay, that was built like a freaking pit bull on steroids. Just muscles on top of muscles, right? He's wearing a tight ass shirt and it's just muscles everywhere, just everywhere. And he starts coming back. He's walking towards me, and I'm like, okay. Roll down my window. As soon as my window comes down, he starts running his mouth. Are you the one who knocked on my fucking truck? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, yeah. I said, I've been sitting here now for 25 minutes, going on 30 minutes. I'd like to get my fuel so I could leave. I said, yeah, I knocked on your truck because I didn't see anybody fueling. It was way longer than I've ever needed to even use the bathroom and go in the store and get what I needed and everything. And nobody's out here. And he's like, well, you could just go to another fucking fuel island, and I don't give a fuck about you. Called me a racial slur that doesn't apply to my skin tone. Okay, which I actually kind of chuckled at that. I'm like, what is this guy all about, right? And I said to him, I said, man, look around right now. I can't even back up. I can't go to another fuel island. When I pulled in here, every fuel island was full. I saw your lights on, figured, hoping you were done and you were gonna pull out. I ain't fucking going nowhere, motherfucker, and blah blah blah. And now I'm getting mad. Okay, I'm getting upset because when I'm in the right, okay, and somebody's gonna give me attitude like that when I was gonna be nice about it and just ask them to move and not be a prick, okay. Now, this goes back to knowing thyself. I know myself, okay? I have a horrendous temper, which is why I generally avoid confrontation and conflict at all costs. Because once I get to a certain point, that's it. People are getting hurt and people are going to jail, including myself, most likely, when I get to that point. I don't care how big you are. I don't care what you have. I just do not give a shit. That's how I am. So I know that. So I'm sitting in my truck as this guy is just giving it to me. And I didn't do anything. I just pulled in there to get fuel. And he's sleeping at the fuel island. He's sleeping in his truck at the fuel island. And I'm like, dude, look around. There's parking spots everywhere. And he's, fuck you, I don't give a fuck. Make me move, motherfucker, and all this, and just calling me names, being belligerent. And to look at him, I would assume that's probably what the guy does to everybody in his life that gives him a hard time. He just bullies the shit out of him until he gets his own way. Just a big, rampaging fucking child. Okay? The manager of the Pilot comes out and catches the tail end of this as this guy's walking back to his truck. The whole way, he's fucking screaming and hollering about how much he doesn't give a fuck about me and whatever. I'm shit out of luck and I can go fuck myself. I was almost at a loss for words and doing everything I could. Like, I'm just telling myself the whole time, stay in your truck. Do not go out there. Do not go out there. Do not let this guy fucking goad you into a potential fight, okay? Because when that happens at a truck stop, I don't believe the cops aren't going to show up and like try and figure out what happened and decide who is in the right or who is in the wrong. They're going to haul both y'all's asses off to jail, okay, and sort it out later. I don't need that kind of shit, right? And I don't need to be fighting anyway. I'm getting too old for that shit. Anyway, so the Pilot manager comes out. He catches the tail end of it. And I said to him, I said, sir, I said, I've now been waiting behind this guy for 35 minutes. I mean, I said, you heard him. All I did was ask him. You know, I didn't tell him. I didn't get belligerent with him. I just asked him to move so that I could fuel my truck and go on about my freaking business. You know, he's a driver. You ought to know. Everybody's got a clock, including him. I'm sure if it happened to him, it would be the other way around, and he'd be pissed off, right? Manager's like, he's like, I'll take care of it, you know. And he's like, stay in your truck, all right? He goes, I know you're pissed off. It's all right. And he's looking. He's like, I see, you know, you can't back up. You can't move. He's like, let me go ask him to move. And he said, if he won't, he's like, I have to call the police often enough for stuff like this anyway. They're usually pretty close. So I'm like, okay. He goes up there. I can hear the driver yelling. Just incoherent. I couldn't tell what he was yelling. Pilot manager throws his arms up, goes back into the store. Within 5 minutes, there was a cop car, rolls into the truck stop, goes right over and parks in front of where this dude is, and goes up to the truck. I can hear the guy yelling at the cops, okay? And I'm like, I stuck my head out the window, and the last part of it, I heard the cops told the guy, if you don't move your goddamn truck, we're going to have it towed, and we're going to arrest you for disorderly conduct, and blah, blah, blah. Cops get back in their car, they back up around the scale, and they sit there, right? Guy's not moving. They give the whoop whoop and flash their lights. Finally, the guy moves, okay? He pulls up. I pull in there. I start pumping my fuel. I keep to myself. Cops are sitting there the whole time, so I'm like, dude's not going to start any shit, so I'm going to fuel my truck, right? As I'm fueling my truck, the cops come over and they're like, so what's this guy's problem? I'm like, man, I don't know. I pulled in here. I waited 15 minutes before knocking on the dude's truck. He was in there sleeping. He's sleeping in his truck on the fuel island, right? And the cops is rolling his eyes. He's like, we get like 6 or 7 calls like this a week with people that won't move their truck out of this fuel island so that, you know, people could come here and get fuel and the people who own this store can make money off the fuel. And we were talking a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, did you get a look at that guy? Guy is, I mean, he's just muscles on muscles. I says, I don't know if he was trying to bully me. I don't know what the hell his problem is. And they're like, okay, yeah, we're taking all his info down. They're writing down his license plate numbers and everything else. The manager comes out and says to me, he's like, sir, I'm really sorry for the, I understand you've been here now for going on an hour. He's like, if you want to come in the store after you fuel, coffee, sandwich, whatever you want, it's on us. Thank you for not getting out of your truck. Thank you for, calling me. Thank you for blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whatever, It's no problem. I know it's not y'all's fault. I'm not mad at you guys. It's not your fault, right? Dude pulls around into the truck stop area, right? So the cops figure it's over. The cops take off. As I'm pulling out of the fuel island, I look back. That son of a bitch came right back around, avoided all of the parking, okay, and parked his truck right back in that fucking fuel island. That's by far, I think, the most egregious, belligerent nonsense that I've ever gotten from a truck driver. Maybe because, going back to the whole know thyself thing, I don't normally say jack to anybody. I try to do whatever I can to avoid all of it. The fuel stop thing, like I said, I figured out where I can go, where I can't go. I got that figured out as best as I can. It still happens from time to time where, clearly somebody's blocking it and they're holding you up now. You can't avoid it all the time, but man, I still think about that, and it's like, I wish I could laugh about it, I wish I could, but it was like one of them things where, God, that guy made me so mad. I was freaking livid, and thank God I did the right thing, though, right? At the very least, I could have been going to jail. At the very worst, I could have ended up in the hospital or dead. You never know these days what somebody is going to do, right? So it's important to know thyself, right? Oh. The stuff I see drivers doing to each other, everything from the guys out on the interstate that are governed like a half a mile an hour or a mile an hour slower than you, that don't want to let you go around, or the guys that slow down deliberately. It seems like I've had plenty of guys that I get behind, and for 10 miles they'll be doing 60, and then as soon as I try to pass them, they do 80. They take off, that kind of shit. The whole guys playing make a spot in truck stops and parking where they're not supposed to be and blocking in the people who took the time to put their truck in a designated spot. I just don't understand. There's enough problems and enough things that make truck driving sometimes kind of a shitty job without other drivers adding unnecessary freaking stress and bullshit to an already to a job that's already got enough stress and bullshit. You know what I mean? Boggles my mind. Sometimes I do laugh about it because there's nothing else you can do. Like I said, I've gotten pretty good at doing my own thing and avoiding as much of that stuff as possible, and just staying out of the confrontations, because saying anything, even in a nice way, to most people out here is not going to net you a positive result, most likely. At the very least, it's going to turn into an argument. At the worst, it's going to turn into a fight. So I've just learned not to say anything to people. Usually that's what I do. In this case, I didn't really have a choice. What was I going to do? Sit there until this guy's 10-hour break was up or whatever? But I knew myself well enough to know that, once I got a look at the guy and saw his attitude, and, I did the right thing. Yeah. I guess that's all I got for y'all. Take care. Keep on trucking.